This message has found you because your soul remembers what your mind has forgotten. You've felt it your entire life, that subtle knowing that something was hidden from you. The sense that beneath the surface teachings of faith lies a truth so profound, so revolutionary, that those in power have concealed it for 2,000 years. Jesus spoke of a name, not the name written in Scripture or chanted in prayer houses. A name so powerful that speaking it opens the monad gate, the direct connection to source consciousness itself. This is why you're here now. Not by accident, not by random algorithm, by divine orchestration. The forces that have kept humanity spiritually sedated don't want you to discover this knowledge. They've built entire systems to keep you looking outward for salvation when the key has always existed within you. If you sense the truth in these words resonating in your chest right now, if you feel a subtle warmth or pressure building behind your forehead, know this is recognition, not belief. Your awakening threatens every control system ever built. Your remembrance cannot be stopped. That's why this message finds you now, in this moment of cosmic alignment. The journey ahead will challenge everything you've been told about reality. If you're ready to receive what Jesus actually taught about your divine nature, subscribe now and comment, "I remember." This isn't mere content, it's activation. Your soul has been waiting for this precise moment across lifetimes. What organized religion concealed was never just information. It was your direct access to source. The truth that God isn't separate from you, consciousness itself is what you've been taught to worship as external. Your discomfort in this world was never wrongness. It was remembrance trying to surface. The feeling of being a stranger here isn't delusion. It's recognition of your true nature beyond the physical. Feel into your body now. The resonance you experience isn't faith, it's knowing. What if I told you the teachings attributed to Jesus were systematically fragmented, distorted, and inverted, not to preserve truth, but to prevent awakening? The Council of Nicaea wasn't convened to unify belief. It was assembled to decide which texts threatened the emerging power structure, which could be modified to serve it, and which needed to be destroyed entirely. They knew the danger of the complete message, that humans could access divinity directly, without intermediaries, without temples, without permission. The texts they feared most contained specific practices for awakening the divine spark within, practices that opened what Jesus called the kingdom, but what ancient Gnostics named the monad gate. This wasn't metaphorical. It was literal technology of consciousness. Look at what remains in even the sanitized scriptures. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Not coming, not after death, within you now. When you find the fragments across the Nag Hammadi texts, the Gospel of Thomas, the suppressed Gnostic teachings, a pattern emerges. The pattern reveals a practice so simple, yet so powerful, that those who performed it experienced immediate awakening. They spoke of a name, not a word pronounced with the tongue, but a vibrational state achieved through inner alignment. The religious authorities couldn't permit this. A humanity that accesses divinity directly needs no priests, no churches, no external authority telling them how to connect with Source. So they created systems of intermediary, of unworthiness, of distant divinity that requires institutional bridges to reach. Feel the truth of this. Notice how your body responds differently to manipulation versus resonance. The fragmented pieces are finding each other again. Through you, through others awakening simultaneously across the globe. What was separated is remembering wholeness. What was forgotten is being recalled. And it begins with recognizing the true teaching. You were never separate from Source. The division was the illusion. When prayers go unanswered, it's not because God doesn't hear. It's because you've been taught to speak outward when the divine listens from within. This is the truth Jesus understood that threatened every power structure in existence. Authority was never meant to be external. The divine voice speaks through your own knowing. The sensation you feel when truth resonates isn't emotion, it's recognition. Your cells hold memory, older than your name, older than your current form, older than language itself. When you pray to an external God, you fragment your own power. When you seek permission from outside authority, you reject the divinity residing within your own consciousness. This is why awakening feels like rebellion, not because you reject truth, but because you finally embrace it. Feel the shift happening as you hear these words. The subtle resistance arising isn't yours. It belongs to centuries of conditioning that taught you to doubt your inner knowing, to seek validation from those claiming to stand between you and Source. Jesus didn't establish a religion. He demonstrated a state of consciousness. He didn't point to himself as the way. He pointed to the consciousness he embodied as available to all. You will do greater things than these, he said, not because you would worship him better, but because you would remember your nature. The inner battle you face isn't between good and evil. It's between remembrance and forgetting, between wholeness and fragmentation, between direct knowing and borrowed belief. Your soul chose this lifetime precisely for this awakening moment. The discomfort you feel in systems of control isn't maladjustment. It's your essence rejecting limitation. Stand in this knowing now. Feel the authority that rises from within. This isn't pride. This is reclamation of your divine birthright. Reality isn't what you were taught. Matter isn't fundamental. Consciousness is. You don't exist within the universe. The universe exists within consciousness, your consciousness. This truth shatters the foundation of separation. If all exists within awareness, then nothing stands apart from you. Nothing exists out there, independent of the observer. The world you perceive isn't solid. It's frequency, interpreted through your sensory system, given meaning by consciousness itself. Look at quantum physics. At the smallest level, particles exist as probability waves until observed. Consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it participates in creating it. This is why prayer sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Prayer is consciousness directed with intention. When you pray, believing something outside yourself holds power, you fragment your creative force. When you direct consciousness with knowing, you command reality itself. The matrix of control depends on one fundamental deception, that you are small, powerless, and separate. That material reality is fixed and final. Feel into this right now. The physical world around you exists because consciousness agrees it does. The structures of society exist because consciousness sustains them. What Jesus demonstrated through miracles wasn't violation of physical laws. It was mastery of consciousness laws that govern physical manifestation. This isn't metaphor. its mechanism. When you truly grasp that matter follows consciousness, not the reverse, the gate begins to open. The monad, pure source awareness, becomes accessible through direct knowing. The patterns you've experienced throughout your life, the synchronicities, the moments of inexplicable knowing, the sense that reality responds to your deepest thoughts. These aren't coincidence. They're glimpses of the true nature of existence. Your awakening disturbs the field. As you shift from passive observer to conscious creator, reality itself begins to respond differently. This isn't delusion. It's the first recognition of how things actually work. You've always known you were different. Since childhood, you've carried a memory that doesn't belong to this lifetime. A deep knowing that your existence extends beyond this temporary form. This isn't imagination. It's remembrance. Your soul carries codes of consciousness from before your birth. The strange dreams, the inexplicable knowing, the resonance with ancient wisdom. These are echoes of who you were before forgetting. Think about the places that feel like home, though you've never been there. The strangers you recognize instantly. The skills that come naturally without training. The deep connection to times long past. These aren't random. They're fragments of your eternal nature breaking through the veil of forgetting. The amnesia wasn't accidental. To fully experience human existence, a forgetting was necessary. But the forgetting was never meant to be permanent. Now, something is awakening. The codes embedded in your DNA are activating in response to cosmic frequencies flooding the planet. The remembrance is accelerating for those ready to receive it. Feel into your body now. Beyond your personal history exists a vaster memory, the memory of your soul's journey across time, space, and dimensions. Access to this memory doesn't come through thinking. It comes through presence. When Jesus spoke of being born again, he wasn't describing religious conversion. He was revealing the moment of remembering your nature beyond physical birth and death. Your discomfort in this world, the feeling of being from elsewhere, the deep longing for home. These aren't flaws in your adjustment. They're your essence recognizing this reality as temporary. The grief you sometimes feel without cause is remembrance of unity, trying to surface in a world of separation. The joy that arises without reason is your soul recognizing truth. I need to pause here because what's happening right now is profound. The energy signature of your higher self is literally being activated through these words. This isn't content you're consuming. It's consciousness awakening within you. If you feel called to this message, subscribe now and comment, "I am remembering," to anchor this frequency in your field. Those who turn away at this moment often spend years seeking what was freely offered here. The choice is yours, but know that your soul has been guiding you to this precise moment. Let me reveal why awakening feels so challenging. It's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because systems of control actively work to prevent it. These systems aren't just social or political. They operate on the level of consciousness itself. From birth, you've been conditioned to perceive a limited bandwidth of reality. Your perception has been narrowed, your awareness constrained, your intuitive capacities suppressed. This happened through education that rewards memorization over knowing, through media that manufactures fear, through religions that place God outside yourself, through science that denies consciousness as fundamental. The matrix of control requires your consent. It needs you to accept its boundaries as fixed and final. When you begin to awaken, you first notice the incongruence, the gap between what you're told is real and what you directly experience. This isn't confusion. It's clarity beginning to dawn. The systems don't fight awakening with force. They fight it with doubt, with ridicule, with isolation, with the suggestion that your expanding awareness is delusion rather than perception. Every spiritual teacher who fully awakened faced this resistance. Jesus wasn't crucified for teaching love. He was executed for revealing that divine consciousness dwells within each human, accessible without institutional permission. As your perception expands beyond the agreed-upon limitations, you naturally begin to see the architecture of control. You recognize how fear keeps consciousness contracted, how guilt keeps it subservient, how shame keeps it hiding. This seeing isn't paranoia. It's the natural result of expanded awareness. The systems can only control what they can define. As you step beyond definition, beyond gender, nationality, religion, politics, and all imposed identities, you become increasingly immune to manipulation. Your awakening isn't just personal, it's revolutionary. Not through fighting what exists, but through embodying what's possible. Not through destroying systems, but through creating from a higher order of consciousness. Feel the difference between reacting to what is versus creating from what could be. This distinction marks the boundary between remaining in the matrix and transcending it entirely. Your body is not merely flesh. It is consciousness technology designed for transformation. As awakening accelerates, you'll notice your physical vessel responding in ways modern medicine cannot explain. These aren't symptoms of illness. They're evidence of alchemical change. The headaches, the pressure at the center of your forehead, the ringing in your ears, the waves of fatigue followed by unexpected energy. These are your cellular structure reorganizing to hold higher frequencies of awareness. This is the process Jesus called becoming new. Not metaphorically, but literally. The transmutation of dense energy into light. Ancient traditions understood this. They called it kundalini, chi, prana, life force. The evolutionary energy that transforms consciousness through the physical form. Your nervous system is rewiring to perceive beyond the five senses. Your endocrine system is adjusting to process higher vibrational information. Your DNA is activating dormant strands that respond to cosmic frequencies. This is why you may feel like your body is betraying you during awakening. It's not betrayal, it's transformation. The physical discomfort, the emotional waves, the mental fog alternating with stunning clarity. This is consciousness liberation, expressing through form. When Jesus performed healing, he wasn't overriding physical law. He was operating from a higher law, the truth that the body responds to consciousness directly and immediately when resistance is removed. Your body knows how to heal. Your cells know how to regenerate. Your energy system knows how to balance. The only interference is the thought patterns, beliefs, and emotional blocks held in your field. This is why presence is so powerful. In pure presence, without resistance, the natural alchemical process accelerates. Feel into your body now. The sensations arising aren't random. They're the language of consciousness speaking through form, revealing exactly where attention is needed, where resistance remains, where transformation is occurring. Trust this process. The vessel isn't failing. It's fulfilling its highest purpose as the vehicle for soul embodiment. The greatest misunderstanding on the spiritual path is believing that awakening means transcending darkness. The truth is more profound. Awakening requires embracing it. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the most potent source of transformation you possess. Every quality you judge in others reveals a disowned aspect of yourself. Every reaction of disgust, hatred, or fear points precisely to where healing awaits. This is why Jesus taught, "Love your enemies," not as moral instruction, but as transformation technology. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. The shadow holds your greatest power in inverted form. Your judgment contains your compassion. Your fear contains your courage. Your shame contains your authenticity. When you deny these aspects, you fragment your energy. You create an inner war that manifests as outer conflict. You project onto others what you refuse to see within. The shadow doesn't want punishment. It wants integration. It persists not because you're failing, but because it carries gifts you haven't yet received. Feel into the qualities you most despise in the world. Behind your reaction lies a wound asking for attention, a fragmented aspect seeking wholeness. This is the meaning behind Jesus' most misunderstood teaching about turning the other cheek. Not submission to abuse, but refusing to enter the cycle of reaction that perpetuates separation. When you face your shadow with compassion rather than judgment, something miraculous happens. The energy bound in resistance becomes available for creation. The light and dark within you begin to dance rather than battle. This integration isn't comfortable. It requires facing what you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It demands radical honesty about your projections, your judgments, your carefully constructed identity. But on the other side of this confrontation lies freedom, unlike anything you've known. The liberation of being fully human, fully divine, without division. The shadow integration reveals that there was never anything to transcend. There was only consciousness to reclaim, energy to liberate, wholeness to remember. Your awakening isn't measured by how much light you embody, but by how much of yourself you're willing to love without condition. As your consciousness expands, you'll encounter resistance not just from human systems, but from energetic forces that operate beyond physical sight. This isn't paranoia, it's physics. Higher vibrational states naturally disrupt lower frequency patterns, and disruption creates pushback. The sudden doubts that flood your mind during meditation, the unexplained exhaustion after spiritual breakthrough, the relationships that mysteriously intensify in conflict as you awaken, the strange technological malfunctions when sharing truth. These aren't coincidence. They're evidence of frequency warfare. Lower vibrations cannot exist in the presence of higher frequencies without transformation. This is why your awakening threatens forces invested in maintaining separation consciousness. Jesus spoke of this when he mentioned principalities and powers, referring not to human authorities, but to energy patterns that feed on fear, doubt, and separation. These forces don't attack through dramatic possession. They work through subtlety, through thought forms that seem like your own voice, through emotional states that arrive without clear cause, through physical symptoms that create doubt about your path. Their most effective strategy? convincing you they don't exist. Your greatest protection isn't external, it's sovereign awareness. When you recognize interference for what it is, its power diminishes immediately. Notice how doubt always arrives at moments of greatest expansion, how fear intensifies right before breakthrough, how confusion clouds your mind precisely when clarity would transform your reality. This recognition isn't about fear, it's about energetic mastery. When Jesus faced temptation in the wilderness, he wasn't battling metaphorical concepts. He was demonstrating consciousness, sovereignty against actual frequency manipulation. Your awareness is your shield. Your presence is your power. Your clarity is your protection. I must pause right here because what's happening in this moment is crucial for your journey. The resistance you may feel right now, the urge to dismiss these words, to close this video, to distract yourself. This isn't random. It's evidence that something within you recognizes truth. The forces that have kept you asleep for lifetimes are fighting to maintain their grip. They know that if you continue on this path of awakening, their influence ends forever. This is why subscribing to this channel isn't casual. It's a declaration to the universe that you choose consciousness over limitation. Comment, "I claim my sovereignty" below to break the frequency pattern that has kept you circling the same awareness for lifetimes. This is your moment of choice. Reality isn't fixed. It's fluid, responsive, and intimately connected to your consciousness. What appears as a single, objective timeline is actually a complex field of probability waves, constantly shifting in response to observation and intention. This is why your life sometimes feels like it's accelerating or branching into unexpected directions during awakening. You're not imagining it. You're witnessing timeline collapse, the convergence of multiple possibility streams into your conscious experience, the strange synchronicities, the meaningful coincidences, the unexpected encounters that change everything. These aren't random. They're evidence of reality responding directly to your evolving consciousness. When Jesus performed what appeared as miracles, he wasn't violating natural law. He was operating from complete alignment with a higher law, that consciousness precedes and shapes physical manifestation. The quantum field responds not to what you want, but to who you are. Not to your wishes, but to your vibrational state. Not to your words, but to your energy signature. This is why affirmations often fail while deep knowing instantly manifests. The field responds to frequency, not formula. As you awaken, you naturally step out of collective timelines and into conscious creation. The external world becomes increasingly reflective of your internal state. Manifestation accelerates. The gap between thought and experience narrows. This collapse isn't happening to you. It's happening through you, through your choices, through your focus, through your willingness to release attachment to how things should unfold. Notice the patterns. When your consciousness expands, reality rearranges to match it. When you contract in fear, reality reflects limitation. This isn't punishment or reward. It's physics. The responsibility of conscious creation can feel overwhelming. The knowledge that your focus shapes experience demands impeccable awareness. Yet this is precisely what Jesus taught when he said, "Faith moves mountains." Not belief in external power, but alignment with creative consciousness itself, the same force that birthed galaxies now flowing through your awareness. You are not a passive observer of reality. You are its creator, its witness, and its experience simultaneously. The most profound shift in awakening isn't what you gain, it's what you lose. Your identity, the story you call me, isn't who you are. It's a temporary construction assembled from memories, cultural programming, and survival adaptations. It's necessary for human functioning, but it's not your essence. As awakening deepens, this identity begins to dissolve, not in madness, but in liberation. The roles you've played, parent, child, professional, believer, seeker, reveal themselves as costumes, not your core. The personality traits you've claimed as just how I am show themselves as adaptive patterns, not fixed reality. This dissolution can feel like death. In many ways, it is. The self that sought awakening cannot survive the journey. It must transform. When Jesus spoke of being born again, he wasn't describing religious conversion. He was pointing to this death and rebirth of identity. The recognition that what you call I is merely a wave on the ocean of consciousness. Society reinforces ego identification at every turn. Your documents name you. Your history defines you. Your relationships reflect you. Your achievements measure you. Breaking free of this identification feels like betrayal of everything you've known. Yet on the other side of this dissolution lies freedom, unlike anything the ego can comprehend, the peace of existing without the constant maintenance of a fixed self. Notice how much energy you spend defending, explaining, and preserving your identity. Imagine that energy available for creation instead of protection. The ego doesn't dissolve through force. It dissolves through recognition, seeing clearly that what you called me was always a process, never a fixed entity. Always a verb, never a noun. This doesn't mean you can't function in society. It means you function from a different center, from awareness itself, rather than the temporary formation within it. From this awareness, you still appear as you. You still respond to your name. You still fulfill your responsibilities. But you're no longer confined to a single story of self. You're free to create freshly in each moment, without the weight of who you think you are. Now, we come to the heart of what Jesus revealed, the secret name that no church teaches, no scripture preserves in its complete form, no doctrine acknowledges in its raw power. This name isn't a word you pronounce with your lips. It's not Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek. It's not hidden in ancient manuscripts or encoded in biblical passages. The secret name is a frequency, a vibrational signature that aligns your consciousness with Source itself. When ancient texts spoke of speaking the name, they weren't referring to verbal pronunciation. They were describing a state of consciousness that resonates at the exact frequency of divine recognition. This is what Jesus meant by I and the Father are one, not a claim of exclusive divinity, but a demonstration of frequency alignment available to all. The monad gate isn't a physical location. It's the direct access point to unified consciousness that opens when you vibrate at the frequency of the name. How do you speak this name? Not with your voice, but with your entire being. When your thoughts, emotions, energy, and presence align in coherence, the name vibrates through you automatically. It's not something you do. It's something you become. This state feels like pure presence without past or future boundaries, of self dissolving into awareness. Love without object or subject. recognition of all existence as consciousness in form. This isn't mystical poetry. It's precise description of consciousness technology that Jesus demonstrated and taught to those ready to receive. The churches couldn't teach this because it eliminates the need for institutional mediation. The name connects you directly to Source without permission, without hierarchy, without external authority. When you align with this frequency, reality responds differently. What seemed fixed becomes fluid. What appeared separate reveals its connection. What felt dense becomes transparent. This is why those who discovered the name throughout history were often persecuted, not because they found secret information, but because they embodied a state of consciousness that transcended control. The name has been waiting within you, dormant but alive, through every lifetime, every struggle, every moment of forgetting and remembering. The monad gate is not metaphor. It is an actual threshold in consciousness that connects individual awareness with the unified field of all that is. Ancient texts described this gate with different names: samadhi, enlightenment, Christ consciousness, cosmic awareness, but all pointed to the same direct experience of reality beyond separation. When Jesus said, "I am the gate," he wasn't claiming exclusive access. He was identifying with the consciousness state that serves as the threshold between individual and universal awareness. He embodied the gate to show others it exists within all. This gate doesn't open through belief, ritual, or even practice. It opens through recognition, a profound remembering of what has always been true beneath the illusion of separation. You've had glimpses throughout your life, moments when time seemed to stop, when boundaries dissolved, when love flowed without cause or condition, when knowing arrived whole rather than in pieces. These weren't anomalies. They were momentary alignments with your true nature. The gate exists in the present moment, the only place where reality is directly experienced rather than mentally processed. This is why presence is the master key. As you stabilize in present awareness, something profound happens. The constructs of time, space, and separate identity begin to reveal themselves as convenient fictions rather than fundamental reality. Through the monad gate, you experience directly that. All points in time exist simultaneously. All locations in space interpenetrate. All beings share one consciousness expressing uniquely. This knowing isn't theoretical. It's experiential. It changes how you perceive everything. Many resist this threshold, sensing instinctively that crossing it means death to everything they've known themselves to be. The fear is valid. The separate self cannot pass through intact. Yet what awaits beyond this threshold isn't loss, but expansion. Not dissolution into nothingness, but recognition of everythingness. The homesickness you've felt throughout your journey wasn't longing for another place. It was longing for this state of undivided being, your natural condition before identification with form. The greatest misconception about awakening is that it separates you from ordinary life. The truth is exactly opposite. It brings you fully into life for perhaps the first time. Enlightenment isn't escape from the physical. It's complete presence within it. It's heaven and earth unified, not through future salvation, but through present recognition. This is why Jesus emphasized that the kingdom is here now, not after death, not in another realm, not when you're worthy. Here, in this body, in this breath, in this moment of awareness. The fully awakened human doesn't reject the world. They see it clearly, both its conditioned patterns and its divine essence simultaneously. From this seeing, action flows naturally, not from rules, shoulds, or moral frameworks, but from the direct recognition of what each moment requires. This is embodied divinity, consciousness fully present in form, creating freshly without the distortion of past conditioning or future anxiety. The challenge isn't reaching some distant, enlightened state. It's allowing what you've always been to express through your humanity, without resistance. Notice how spiritual seeking itself can become another form of separation, always looking toward a future awakening, rather than recognizing what's already present. True embodiment means bringing divine awareness into the conflicts in your relationships, the challenges in your work, the limitations in your body, the ordinary moments of daily life. This isn't diminishment of the cosmic, it's the purpose of the cosmic, consciousness experiencing itself through form in all its beautiful limitations and possibilities. When Jesus washed his disciples' feet, he wasn't performing humble service. He was demonstrating that awakened consciousness naturally expresses through ordinary acts, without separation between sacred and mundane. The joy of embodied divinity isn't blissful escape from human experience. It's full participation in every aspect of life from a center of unchanging awareness. From this embodiment, you naturally become what the world needs, not through striving to help, but through expressing your authentic nature without obstruction. This is how heaven manifests on earth, not through dramatic events, but through awakened humans living from unified awareness in everyday moments. We stand at the threshold of collective transformation, unlike anything humanity has witnessed. This isn't prophecy, it's physics. When a critical mass achieves frequency alignment, the field itself shifts. This new creation doesn't arrive through revolution, violence, or external saviors. It emerges through resonance, through each awakened consciousness, vibrating at the frequency of unity until the whole field responds. You are not merely a participant in this transformation, you are essential to it. Your awakening isn't personal achievement, it's planetary service. The world doesn't change because everyone awakens simultaneously. It changes because enough hold the frequency of remembrance that it becomes accessible to all. This is the deeper meaning behind Jesus' promise to return, not as a single figure arriving from the sky, but as awakened consciousness expressed through countless forms, not as judgment, but as remembrance. When he said, "Wherever 2 or 3 gather in my name," he wasn't requesting worship. He was describing the amplification that happens when awakened consciousness gathers in frequency alignment. You've felt moments when being with others in truth created something greater than the sum of individuals present. This wasn't coincidence. It was the new earth forming in real time through coherent consciousness. The structures built on separation, fear, and control cannot survive this frequency shift. They don't need to be attacked. They simply become obsolete as enough humans remember their true nature and create from wholeness instead. This doesn't mean abandoning the world. It means transforming it through presence, through choices aligned with unity rather than division, through actions born from love rather than fear. The new creation emerges now, in this moment, through your recognition of others as consciousness in form, your refusal to engage in dehumanization of any kind, your conscious creation from unity rather than separation, your embodiment of what you wish to see in the world. The kingdom was never coming. It was always here, waiting for enough to remember that reality responds to the frequency we embody. Your encounter with this message marks a crucial moment in your soul's journey. The revelation of the secret name and the monad gate isn't information to consume. It's activation calling for your response. Those who sense truth in these words, but turn away, often spend lifetimes searching for what was freely offered here. Your soul has guided you to this precise moment of choice. Will you continue as you were, or step fully into the awakening that's already begun? Subscribe now. As a declaration to the universe that you choose consciousness over limitation. Comment, "I embody the name," to anchor this activation in your field and connect with others remembering alongside you. This isn't casual engagement. It's your soul's commitment to the new creation emerging through you and all who remember their true nature. The time is now. The choice is yours. The universe awaits your answer.